Would you like to share with us your worst identity nightmare that you've experienced?
Yeah, so this one's also the worst, but also funniest. I've got an inside joke with a buddy of mine where we say, like, you can't call yourself an identity practitioner until you've fired half the company that you work for. This was a really big project, and it was our first $1 million services implementation, like big, huge customer that I can't name. But we were 2 weeks away from going live. And during the process of the implementation, there's some things that we had called out. We're like, hey, there may be some issues here with some of the data. And we were assured that, hey, no problem, like test data, this is representative. It's going to be the same way it is in production. And we're like, okay, red flag number one, because it's never the way it is in tests as the way it is in production. But this wasn't my first time at this rodeo. So I was like, we had some tricks up our sleeve, and just in case the data turned out to, in fact, not be what we thought it was. So we decided to go live. 2 weeks later, we had passed through production. Everything was up. We had run some tests. Everything was running pretty good. And so I gave the team the time off, like, go take a vacation to be in a hard project. Everybody was enjoying themselves. I myself had flown down to Miami, hang out with my buddies. So we had this huge weekend planned in Miami. I get there Friday, meet my buddies at the airport, and it's Miami, folks. So you can figure out what happened after that point. So we had a good night. My phone dies that night. And I remember like getting into the hotel, plugging it up. I wake up the next morning. It's East Coast. I'm probably 10, 11, something like that or whatever. I'm groggy, hungover. I'm like, I want to go get some brunch. And I look over at my phone and it's just got like all these notifications. I'm like, it's Saturday. I really want to answer this. I was like, well, I probably should. So I go, and it's one of the team members from my team, and they're just blowing me up on text like, hey man, something's going on. The process that we're running, like it's terminating people. The customer's pissed. You need to pick up. I called you 3 times. Like I'm just reading all these texts. I finally pick up. I call him. And I was like, hey man, what's going on? And he can't even get the words out. He's like, I don't know what's happening, man. They run the process, and it seems like every time they run it, like it keeps terminating people. I was like, all right, slow down, slow down. I was like, turn on the debugging, look at the logs. Like, is it doing what we expect it to do? And he goes, yeah, no, it's definitely doing it. It's not like the code is wrong. It's just the data doesn't match. Like the data that we said that we wouldn't find in production, we found in production. Look at the code's doing what it's supposed to do. But the customers, I mean, obviously people are getting these notifications. People can't, it's actually disabling people's accounts. And so it's going kind of bad. And so the customer is just livid, right? He's the main guy. He's berating my engineer. So finally I get on the phone, and again, mind you people, I'm hungover. So I have to figure out, have this conversation with this customer. And he is just yelling everything at me. Like, you guys got to do this. Your company's going to do this. And I want 24/7 report. I want your CEO on the phone tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. Like all these things, right? He's just letting me have it. I'm like, all right, cool, great. I can do that. And I'll run this up the flagpole. But in the meantime, we need to make some decisions of what we're going to do like right now. When I said, how big is this? Did we open this up to the entire production system, or did we just do a portion? Because we had agreed that we were only going to roll out a portion. Well, somebody made a last minute change and decided to say, no, we're going to open it up to the entire domain. We are disabling hundreds of accounts like every 10, 20 minutes. And so instead of enjoying my Saturday morning in Miami post hangover, I'm on the phone, grabbing my laptop, trying to figure out how do we roll back these changes. I had to call my boss, and we had to get executives on that side to call in and just kind of calm everything down. And the biggest thing really was just calming the customer down. From a code perspective, we already knew how to back out of this. We could turn back on the account. It wasn't that big of a deal. It was just more big of a deal that it was happening in the moment. Whenever that happens, we're like, oh my God, what's going on? It's doing all these accounts. The machines are taking over. That's my identity nightmare. There's nothing worse than like waking up when you're already hungover and getting a call from a customer.
The moral of the story, I guess, don't roll out to the entire company when you're still testing.
Yeah, always roll out incrementally, and honestly, always have a plan, especially when you're dealing with things that are going to respond to data. If anything's data driven, always assume that data is not going to be correct and have a plan of what to do if that data is